Thank you everyone for joining, and thank you for again hosting me. So my name is Rie. I'm a project officer at the Cultural Relations Platform, which is the initiative that coordinates the program that I'd like to tell you about today. The Cultural Relations Platform is an initiative that's based in Brussels. We are EU funded, and we support the European Union to engage in activities and research which supports impactful, sustainable, and co-collaborative exchanges in cultural relations between EU and its partner countries. We coordinate a variety of different activities. So research, as I mentioned, is one of them. We also promote facilitation and matchmaking between cultural professionals. For example, we host cultural exchanges in the form of cultural trips and residencies. And we also provide support in capacity building, which is one of the thematics that this particular program falls under. The Cultural Relations Platform has been in existence since 2020, but prior to that, we had a preceding initiative called the Cultural Diplomacy Platform, which has been around since 2016. So we've been in Brussels for quite a few years now. Yeah.
Sorry, my microphone was muted. Yeah, I was going to ask if this specific program started together with the establishment of the platform, or it's something new that you started just recently?
It's been the Global Cultural Relations Program has been around since the beginning of the platform. So we had the very first edition in 2016, but it used to actually be called the Global Cultural Leadership Program. So we did change the name in 2020.
Okay. Well, I'm curious what is very unique about this program, like what makes it different from any other this kind of like training or exchange programs for professionals from cultural field, and yeah, if there is anything like very specific about this program.
Yeah, sure. So the Global Cultural Relations Program, which I'll call GCRP from now, because it's quite a long program name. So GCRP is quite unique in that it's a very participatory learning program. So it's not a classic traditional training in the sense that you sit there and you receive lectures or you are given material to read. It's not a classical learning program. It's quite participatory, it's very hands-on, and the focus is really on peer-to-peer learning and sharing knowledge through each other as participants, and also ultimately hoping to promote more cross-cultural collaboration. I think that's quite unique in that the participants really are the experts themselves. So we try to promote the idea that there's a strong sense of peer-to-peer learning that can be done with the participants in the room. There's always 40. And another unique thing is that it's a global program, as the name suggests. So we have really participants from all over the world. It's an EU-funded program, but the idea is to promote really international cultural relations and cross-cultural collaboration. So within the 40 participants in the room, we really have some people from all over the world, which is, I also think, quite a unique opportunity.
That's exciting. Yeah, and I also noticed in the description of the open call that it encourages professionals from so many fields like architecture, audiovisual, cinema, books, cultural heritage, design, media. Like there is quite a big list, and I'm wondering how people from these different fields of practice collaborate together. And probably more specifically, I'm curious about the format of event which enables this kind of collaboration or co-working.
Yeah, that's a good question. So traditionally, just to give you a bit of context, traditionally the GCRP has always been purely for cultural and creative professionals. So there's a list of the different sectors that the participants should be coming from to participate in the program. Primarily before, it was really just for cultural and creative professionals. So the idea was that we brought together 40 professionals working in the cultural and creative sectors to discuss how to collaborate with each other in a global context. This year is actually the very first time we're doing it slightly differently. So you might have noticed on our open call text that we have opened it to professionals working in climate change and environmental issues. This is the very first time we're doing this. we decided to re-strategize the approach of GCRP a little bit this year for the first time, because we believe that to work internationally and to work cross-collaboratively, it's important to be aware of how to work with different disciplines and not to be too siloed in our own particular sectors. So that actually is for the first time this year that we've opened it to beyond cultural and creative professionals. The ethos of GCRP, where it's based on peer-to-peer learning, knowledge sharing, how to collaborate with each other as people, this will still remain the same. So a lot of the program, it's a 4-day program. Most of the program is centered around different workshops, different exercises on how we can collaborate with each other, bringing in our own personal expertise and our experiences from where we come from.
That's great. Yeah, I totally agree upon the point that bringing together people from different practices really creates a very good background for creative, innovative approach for like solutions for certain like problems or issues, whether it's environmental or social or any other. Because this like combination of different mindsets and different perspectives leads to very interesting results normally.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you for this background. And it would be interesting to talk about some technical details because the deadline is approaching very soon, right?
Yes.
And so it would be nice to discuss the application process. As you already mentioned, it's a global program, so people can apply from around the world. So it's not strict in terms of any geographical areas or the same for the professional background that we already listed, that people can represent many different fields. And in terms of deadlines, application process and selection criteria and all the other important details about the open call.
Yeah, of course. So the open call has been launched at the end of April. So indeed, the timeline for the submission deadline is quite tight. The deadline is this Sunday at midnight Central European Summer Time.
Is it manageable?
Sorry?
Is it manageable to fill the application until that day?
Yeah, no, definitely. It's not a very difficult application. It's fairly straightforward. The link to apply is on our website, which I'm happy to drop the link into the chat. It's a very straightforward application form. So we just need to know a little bit about you, your professional experience, because as mentioned, the program is open for a wide variety of sectors, but you must be a cultural or creative professional or a climate change and environmental issues professional. And then we would like to know a little bit about your motivation for applying to the program, why you'd like to participate. So we do have 4 questions pertaining to your professional experience and your motivation on applying for GCRP. So it's definitely manageable for Sunday midnight. In terms of eligibility, so we do have an age range. It should be, the program prioritizes participants between 25 to 39. However, this is not a hard criteria. If you're slightly older or slightly younger, we would still invite you to apply if you feel that your experience and your motivations are in line with the objectives of GCRP. As you mentioned, it's global. It's open to all nationalities. So it doesn't matter where you live or what your nationality you're from. The program is open globally. And other than that, there is a requirement that you should have at least 3 years of international or global experience, just so that there is a baseline understanding of how to work in an international context. But this is something that you can elaborate in the application form in a bit more detail, because we understand that this also, depending on where you are and what sector you work in, that might have a different meaning for some people. So there is space to elaborate on that. But those are the main requirements. And of course, that if you are selected, you are available to be in Madrid, which is where the program is this year, for 4 full days in October. So the dates are the 10th to the 13th of October, which is a Tuesday to a Friday. Other technical details that might be important to know is that another great thing about GCRP is that it is a fully funded program in the sense that there's no fee to apply. And actually the cultural relations platform does cover travel and accommodation costs. So we will be covering the travel to and from Spain no matter where you're based, and of course accommodation for the 4 days of the program in Madrid, which is also, I think, a nice opportunity for a lot of people who maybe don't have the resources or to attend a global program like this.
Yeah, definitely. I find this opportunity great from many perspectives, and the fact that everything is funded and people can really apply without thinking about like this kind of financial obstacles. That means a lot. I'm wondering if eligibility criteria is anyhow related to the employment status. Like, I'm sorry, there is something in attendance room. Okay. Yeah, I'm wondering if it's related anyhow to the employment status. Like, is it possible to be a freelancer, self-employed, or you should really be employed at a cultural organization? Like, if that affects anyhow the eligibility?
Yeah, that's a good question. Not at all. We're really open to any sort of cultural or climate change practitioner. It doesn't mean, it's not a necessity that you have to be linked to a big organization or an institute. The beauty of GCRP is that really we have 40 participants coming from all different backgrounds and all walks of life. And I think that's how you really have innovative discussions, by talking to people who have very different backgrounds, different employment, professional situations. So for those of you who might be interested, the biographies of all of our past participants are actually on our website. And if you go through them, you could see that some of them work for big cultural institutions or public office. Some of them are really freelancers. Some of them are artists themselves. So it's really, really quite mixed. So we would really encourage anyone who is in the sector to apply, regardless of whether they're affiliated with a big institution or not.
Okay, great. Rie, and again, the question about the format. So I'm curious what is happening during these days in Madrid, like whether it includes some workshops, lectures, or field visits. Like if you can give a glimpse on this kind of process, what to expect from those.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Normally, we don't actually give a very detailed schedule in advance. This is not because we're trying to be mysterious or anything, but it's just because a lot of the program is very participant-led. So the topics of discussion are brought up by the participants themselves. So we don't actually have content in advance most of the time, because again, this links to the idea that the participants themselves are really experts in their field. So we try to have the participants also bring up topics they would like to discuss. To give you a very brief outline, normally we do spend a bit of time with everyone getting to know each other, because of course 40 people is quite a lot. So we try to spend some time for everyone to get to know each other as people, as well as professionally, who they are in terms of their work, but also who they are as people. There's a lot of workshops centered around really how to collaborate. So that's not really so much linked to professional, like content professionally, but who are you as a collaborator and how do you work with other people? And then we have some discussions and dialogue surrounding, so previously around working in cultural relations. This year, of course, it will be a mix of culture and climate change. And normally we do also try to have some engagement with the host city. So last year, GCRP was hosted in Istanbul. So we did have some local site visits with cultural operators who are active in Istanbul. So I would gather we would do something similar this year in Madrid, because we don't want to go to this city and not engage at all with the community locally. So this is all normally part of the program. And usually we also do have short provocations, or I don't want to call them lectures, but really just sort of short provocations from external speakers, experts in the field. In Istanbul, we hosted an online panel with some experts working in culture on the theme of equity. So we do try to have some sort of guiding discussions, but overall the participants choose the content themselves. So it's that's why we don't really have a very clear schedule that we share in advance.
Great. Honestly, I've never heard it about other programs, because normally you have like schedule and like all the topics are predefined and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, it's interesting. and pretty unusual. Well, since we have already the first question in the chat, I think we can slowly switch to the questions from the audience.
Yeah, sure.
And for many other details, everyone is invited to visit the website of the Cultural Relations platform or the call for curators, where all the details are stated. So the first question is, will there be a per diem provided as well for participants?
Per diem, yeah. So we don't provide a daily per diem for participants. However, on top of travel costs and accommodation costs, so breakfast is always included at the hotel, for example, and we do provide lunch during the program days. So 2 meals out of the 4 program days are covered by the program.
Okay, thank you. And well, I think it's quite often that people ask about visa, whether any support is provided. Yes. Or any letters is possible to receive anything.
Yeah. Yeah, we do provide visa application support. So obviously, because the program is hosted in Spain this year, for those who have to apply for a Spanish or a Schengen visa, we do provide that support. So we provide official invitation letters, and we also can provide financial support for visa application costs.
Okay, great. Well, let's see if anyone else has more questions about the open call or anything else. Because if not, well, when selection results will be announced?
Yeah, okay, that's a good question. Just as an overall timeline, so as mentioned, the open call closes this Sunday at midnight, and then from there we have our external evaluators who will be going through the applications. This takes quite a bit of time because we, of course, want to ensure that the evaluations are being done thoroughly. So the time frame is that we expect to inform successfully selected participants in early July, which is important to know for maybe those of you who are in countries or regions that have summer holidays, because it will be at the beginning of summer holidays. So early July, we will inform successfully selected participants via email. And then in September, we will be publishing officially on our website who the participants are.
Okay, great. Let's see if there are more questions. Thank you, Juma. Yeah, if we don't have more questions from the audience, we can slowly close the session.
Okay, perhaps then what I would just like to invite anyone who's interested in the program, the history of the program. We do have quite a lot of videos, for example, on our website of the past editions. And we also do have some testimonies from alumni of the program. So one thing that's actually another really wonderful thing about participating in GCRP is that you do join a community of 220 alumni from the past editions. So we've had 5 editions already. They're all rather active still. They're still very much in touch with each other. And so I would really suggest going on our website and maybe looking at some of our alumni testimonies. As I mentioned, the biographies of all of our past participants are also online if you're curious to know who they might be, what kind of people participated before. There's quite a lot of information on our website, so I would just invite everyone to have a look there. I've just dropped the link to our website in the chat. And maybe what I can also do is drop my email, if that might be helpful, in case anyone wants to think of some questions after this Q&A, they can get in touch with me directly.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, there is one more question. Do you take any initiatives to foster communication collaboration among the alumni?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So the alumni network is actually rather self-organized, but we also do, as the Cultural Relations platform, engage with the alumni network fairly regularly. So as mentioned at the very beginning, we are an EU-funded initiative, and our mandate is to work with different EU institutions. So that's a lot of the headquarters here in Brussels, but also EU delegations in other countries, which are sort of like embassies. We often connect the alumni with their local EU delegation in case projects, there might be some initiatives or cultural projects that they can be involved in. And often when we as a cultural relations platform host events or panels, we often will also reach out to the alumni network. So we are quite actively in touch. And I think a lot of the alumni, after having participated in the program, also find organically ways to collaborate with each other. So that's why I also mentioned that they're fairly self-organized as well. Yeah, but we do try to host fairly regular means of staying in touch with the alumni network. We might have Zoom calls just to see what everyone is up to. So yeah, we do keep in touch with them fairly often.
Right. Well, you actually just answered one of my questions. That I was just wondering if you are aware of how collaborations continue after the program, like if you know about any cooperation or any project between participants.
Yeah, because, I would say I think there's quite a lot that, I mean, one of the things with cultural relations is that, of course, it takes time. So I think a lot of the collaborations between alumni are still sort of developing. So it's always nice to see things happening after they've left the program, because it's also quite nice to see that they've kept in touch and they've really continued to collaborate after the program days itself. But I think so. There's on the alumni testimonies page on our website, you could see some examples of projects that alumni have created together with their peers from the program. So there's some examples there. In 2021, actually, when we ran the program, because of the pandemic, we hosted it online. And the Cultural Relations platform actually provided some funding to kickstart some of the projects that came out of that program. So the example of that is also on our website, if anyone would like to have a look. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you, Rie. And thanks for the questions. Well, okay. I think we can slowly close the session then. And if anyone has more questions, you can either email us or Rie, or you can rewatch this video and share it with your friends and colleagues. All right, thanks a lot for everyone for joining, and to you, Rie, for being with us and providing all the details. It was really interesting. I wish good luck to everyone who will plan to apply for this incredible opportunity, and I wish good luck to the team as well in this huge selection process.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Okay, have a great afternoon.